Hi, folks. Welcome, welcome. How are we doing today? Go ahead and give everybody just a minute to kind of get logged in and get ready to talk Virtuous. Welcome, everyone. Everyone's Thursday's going well. We'll get started in just a minute. All right, we'll go ahead and jump in for today. Welcome to today's Virtuous Insider. My name is Stephanie Larsen, and I am one of the product trainers here at Virtuous. And we'll go ahead and just dive right on. We've got 30 minutes and it's going to zoom by. I just know it. So we'll go ahead and get started. First things first, I do just want to point out that everybody is muted today. If you do have any questions, you can always use the Zoom Q&A feature. Jot anything in there, and then if you'd like, you're also welcome to use the chat. Just say hi. You can pop in and let us know where you're joining from. But if you can use the Q&A feature for any questions you have, so I can kind of keep organized as far as making sure I get answers to everybody. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, I'm Stephanie Larsen, the product trainer here, and we are actually going to be joined by Megan on our marketing team. So for today, we're actually going to talk through, we actually have a client who is spending a little bit of time with us to kind of talk through just some of the things that they have found with transitioning to Virtuous, and then some of the kind of challenges they had initially, how that's translated once we've gotten into Virtuous. And then we're actually going to flip over to Virtuous proper and take a look at just kind of some of the actionable type pieces of this. So we've got Amy Melton here. She is the development manager of annual giving from Human Life International. So I'm going to go ahead and flop on over real quick. Got one other little line there. So just before we get started, Amy just kind of shares a little bit, or is going to share a little bit about some of the struggles that they had prior to joining Virtuous, and really how that's kind of changed once they've gotten into Virtuous. But really one of the kind of big challenges that they were having at Human Life International was their data was just kind of all over the place. Different platforms, the finance team was operating different than the marketing team, than the fundraising team. So really kind of getting everything into one roof. And then really a lot of time spent on not very fun things, those kind of back office, internal tasks, just a lot of that data management that it's important, but not always very fun. So I am going to go ahead and toss it on over to Megan.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about how things are going at Human Life International. Yeah, no problem. So to get us started, we'd love to hear about what brought you to Virtuous in the first place.
So Human Life International actually had, we were with Razor's Edge for a very long time, like since we transferred over to a database period from a strictly paper-based system. And we were just feeling like it was kind of time for a change. The system didn't really allow for customer feedback. There were a lot of things that we wanted that just weren't quite available, or they weren't willing to work with us on. And our 3-year contract was coming up with them to renew it. And we were like, let's look for something new. So we went through the process of looking for a couple different, we went through, I think, 3 or 4 different databases that we looked at, and Virtuous was one of them. And we just really felt like you guys were very customer focused, and we felt like you really listened to us. And I also sing a lot of praise to you guys for the fact that we had 30 days to do our migration, and you guys did it in 30 days, which is like, it's super pressured. So, Yeah, you guys just kind of took on the whole thing, no questions asked, had no problem with the 30-day limit, got it done perfectly. We were really impressed with a lot of the features and the fact that we could combine a lot of the systems that we had in various different places. Lots of reasons why we switched to you guys specifically. So
that's great to hear.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Amy. And I guess just kind of going off of that for when you guys switched. So I know one of the, with switching to the Virtuous platform, there's a lot of automation that's involved. Would you mind telling us a little, excuse me, would you mind telling us a little bit about how you're using automation on your day-to-day?
Yeah, sure. So we've just started really implementing automation into our day-to-day to kind of get rid of the mundane, like tag adding, tag removing that we have to do. One that we're doing right now is we use automation actually to help track our online monthly donors and their payments so that one person doesn't have to sit there and watch it go from up to date to past due to canceled. And so we use automation to kind of add tags and remove them as they go along that stage process and send them emails to let them know, hey, your card was declined, or hey, it looks like your payment's past due, just checking in to see if everything's okay. So we use it for that. We also use it for signing people up to our email lists. And kind of in that same vein, we use it for our welcome series that we have. I believe that we have like a 5-step welcome series that we send people through when they first sign up for our emails over I believe it's a 3-week period, which is very nice that you can like delay when everything goes out. And then I'm trying to think, we also have it for just general task assignment, like for our major gift processor, we have it where if anyone gives a gift over a certain amount, they automatically get a task that says, hey, make sure that you check up on this person, give them a call, write them a note, send them a postcard, that kind of stuff. So we use it for all kinds of things.
Wow, that's awesome. That's super cool. Saves a lot of time too on the back end, which is great.
Yeah, it absolutely does. There's so many things where I ask my team, I'm like, is there anything that you do day to day that you feel like could be done automatically? And let me see if I can set it up. So we've been trying out new things. Next, we also have a system for lapsed donors. We have like a welcome back series that we do for people. And right now we're working on trying to get more letters and emails to go automatically, like thank yous or just little, milestones like, oh, you've hit this milestone in your giving. Thank you so much for your time. That kind of stuff. So
that's super cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what kind of channels are you using to communicate with your donors? You said you had email. How else do you talk to them?
So we do email, direct mail, and occasionally we do phone communications. But our top 2, I would say, are our web forms, which we do through you guys, our emails, which we also do through you, and our direct mail as well. So those are our 3 main channels that we use.
Great. And how is Virtuous helping you on those channels where it is?
So first off, it's amazing because we used to have a database and then we also had an email processor that we sent emails through. So they were 2 separate things. So we were never quite sure who was getting what emails. If they gave to us, we never really knew what email it came from, or if they got sent to our website, we didn't know where they came from or what forms they went to or anything, because it was all kind of separated. So it's nice and Virtuous with the email solution that you guys have that everything's extremely trackable, which is very nice. Your program and your email setup is so nice and simple to use, which is great because we have had some email setups before where it's like you sit and look at it for an hour and you're like, I don't think I've gotten anywhere setting this email up. So it's just really nice to have that nice simplistic solution. And it also helps, just stepping back into the automation, it also helps to not have to remember every day, like, oh, I have to remember to send this email out to these people. Oh, I have to remember to send this email out. So it also tracking back to the, this whole tracking thing with the web forms. It's also nice to know if somebody clicks on this, it automatically uploads that giving segment from where they came from to their gift when we import it. So we know exactly what form they went to, where they gave it from. It just makes things so simple. So
that's awesome. That's super cool. And it kind of jumping around and kind of going off of that a little bit. Like I know we just mentioned about how we're talking about saving time and everything. So, where specifically have you guys seen with automation saving time on the back end with like administration tasks, and just kind of like what has that time enabled you guys to be able to do with the extra time that you have?
So, we've always been kind of caught up in the day-to-day stuff. So being able to remove that has been very helpful, because we've actually been able to get together as a group and actually focus on fundraising and focus on, okay, well, we have good stories. What do we do with them? Okay, we have this really big project, this big data project we have to get to, but it keeps getting on the back burner because we have to, add Mr. and Mrs. to every single contact that we get. Just little things like that we've been able to now focus on the big picture of our fundraising and being donor focused, when we really couldn't do it before because we were just so caught up in the weeds, I feel like, of our data.
Right. That's awesome. That's why you joined the field in the first place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. It wasn't just tagging things with titles and doing that. That wasn't why you became a fundraiser?
Yeah, surprisingly, I did not find that to be the most fun part. So yeah, the most fun part, I feel like, is getting to know your donors and, getting to know their lives and why they give to you. And I just feel like Virtuous allows us to be able to do that by taking away those mundane day-to-day tasks that we normally had to do. So
great. And how are you using Virtuous to learn more about your donors? You talked a little bit about web forms as a form of listening and seeing that, but what else?
So we have started implementing a lot more of like the note system, because I believe you guys have like the audit list on the overview section when you click into a donor. So we're using that a lot to be able to see, okay, well, this person had a phone call with them. They mentioned that they had a brother who was having surgery. So maybe when we send them their thank you from Virtuous, we write a little note on it to just say, hope that your family's doing well, that kind of stuff. Which we have noticed quite a bit of uptick in giving back to our thank yous, just from writing these little personal notes from, previous comments people have made in the donor system. We also, the dog was excited about that.
Everyone celebrates increased donor communication.
Super fun.
Yeah, and we also, we do use lead forms. We're actually starting to try and track, surveys about why people give to us, or say that somebody wants to unsubscribe from our list. We're going to try and track why they're unsubscribing. So we're able to create a custom field, which is great. And we can put it in a lead form and send them there when they unsubscribe and say, do you know why you did this? They can select it, and then it gets automatically uploaded to their contact. It's very simple to be able to import that data and use the custom fields to be able to really track what our donors are interested in, why they're interested in us, what specific areas they really care about, that kind of stuff. So
excellent.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And kind of going off of that, like I know you mentioned like writing, special notes on like their thank yous and everything. Like, what are some of the other ways that you've seen or been able to use personalization in order to help, be able to engage with your donors and see an improvement with donor engagement through personalization?
It's a big question. I think just going back to the whole like donor focused, I just feel like donor focused is mainly just personalization. It's letting people know that, hey, you said something to us and we're listening. So we really try to, especially when it comes to receipts, when it comes to thank you emails, things like that, we try to really customize everything to certain groups of people. Or if somebody sends us a note that says, hey, I really don't want to get this much mail, it's really stressful, we add a system for them to not do that. We give them a call and we say, hey, we took you off the list, no need to stress. It's just kind of listening and making sure that the donor feels heard. And I just feel like with the custom fields and the tags and the note system, I just feel like it's really easy to make sure that anyone in our system can make sure that that donor has been contacted and heard, and that they're being talked to personally and not just like another one of the many donors that we have. So
that's super cool. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think listening, that's something we talk about here at Virtuous all the time, is listening to donors. And really, I mean, that's the whole basis, is to be able to be a great listener, not just talk outwardly all the time to donors. So that's awesome. That's super cool. Thanks for sharing that.
We try to be very you focused in our talking to them. So
great. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Wonderful. Amy, is there anything else you'd like to share with the Virtuous customer community about how you're using Virtuous? Favorite features?
You guys covered a lot of bases with your questions. So
good.
I feel like we kind of hit everything that we use for now. And I say for now because I'm constantly looking at the new features that you guys put out. And just, I'm always so impressed with everything that your support team and your programmers think of for new updates, because I always say, like, we'll think of one thing that we're like, man, this would make Virtuous a lot easier to work with. And then you guys release your updates and it somehow includes that thing, plus like 5 other things we didn't know that we needed updated. So it's, yeah, I'm always kind of on the lookout for your new stuff too. So it's always changing what we do.
Wonderful. Well, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to.
Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, back to you, Stephanie.
So you guys obviously know that was recorded. Amy, Aly, and Megan weren't able to make it here right now. So sorry, like closed everything on there, but I hope you guys had a good time kind of experiencing a little bit of what Megan and I have kind of been talking about on, we joke, the Megan and Stephanie show every couple weeks, but getting to hear from Amy kind of some of the challenges that they had and ways that they've been able to implement some things in Virtuous has been pretty cool. And so I actually want to take a peek into Virtuous proper. And I want to show you a couple of things that I took from some of Amy's comments and some things that you can either utilize or really just kind of start thinking about how you would utilize a feature like that in Virtuous. So I'm going to go ahead and pop over to Virtuous, but really quick, if you can, I love Amy made the comment about how it's always fun, new features and things like that whenever we do our releases every couple of weeks. So I'd love to just hear in the chat, if you can, if you have a favorite feature that we've released in the last couple little bits. We'd just love to kind of know that. So let me toss on over to Virtuous. Okie dokie. So I am here in my dashboard, and I wanted to just focus on a few kind of little things that Amy brought up that I was thinking about when it comes to kind of action items in Virtuous. So the very first thing that she, or that I wanted to kind of touch on that Amy mentioned was our audit log. And so a lot of you, I'm sure, have seen, pull up my dear Leslie Nope here. A lot of you have seen, I'm sure, the audit log in a contact record, but I wanted to just kind of point out a few little things that you might not have noticed about it if you're not kind of looking at it all the time, or just things to kind of look for. So I'm here in my Leslie Nope and Ben Wyatt contact record. Shout out to all the Parks and Rec fans out there. But the audit log we're referring to is this kind of piece over here on the right. And so one of the things that Amy mentioned was kind of hearing or seeing, what a donor has been sent and then what they were giving from. And now we know that we can do a lot of that when it comes to segmentation, of understanding exactly what is kind of the tipping point for someone to give. So we're tracking where those gifts are coming from. But being able to see that in the audit log is pretty cool too. So you can, at a quick glance, see some of those touch points that you might have had with a donor, more so than just leaving any, note after chatting with him, things like that. So just over here on the audit log, being able to see, some of the activities. So for example, they've been volunteering a little bit, RSVPing to some events and things like that. But even opening of emails. Now, this is all, of course, reportable on the Virtuous marketing side of things when we talk about emails, open rates, click-through rates, and things like that. But this translates over to the donor itself. So at any moment, you can pop in and see kind of what they've been sent lately, and where they're kind of clicking from in there. So for example, like Leslie clicked on a specific link in my last newsletter. So just being able to kind of touch base if you were chatting with them to say, hey, I saw that you opened, or saw that you were looking into the newsletter. What'd you think? Or just those kinds of things. So just wanted to kind of point out the audit log. I know it's not the coolest thing, but it's pretty cool. Okay, and then I wanted to also jump over to Virtuous Automation. We can't not talk about Virtuous Automation. But Amy talked about a couple of kind of unique things when it came to automating some internal kind of tasks and activities. And I know we talk a lot about how automation is really very kind of donor facing, and that's how we can do a lot of personalization. We listen to the cues that they're giving, and we kind of set the donor on this journey through automation. But it's really helpful for a lot of those kind of back office tasks as well. So I want to pop over real quick to Virtuous Automation. And I've got a couple different automation workflows that I want to take a peek at, but I made one of recurring payments. This was something that Amy mentioned that I had not thought about in really anytime recently, but using Virtuous Automation to take a look and manage those kind of recurring payments. So that way you can get that touch point with a donor before they become lapsed or before they're past due, things like that. So I've just set up a really very, very simple automation. It's got 3 big steps in it where I'm looking at past due recurring gifts, up-to-date recurring gifts, or upcoming recurring gifts where someone has a gift payment due in the next 30 days. And so my queries are showing the folks that are going to be in these steps. And really all this workflow is doing is internal management, adding a tag. So on their record, very quickly, I can see that they have a recurring gift that is past due, and adding a task so someone on my team can reach out regarding that past due payment. Very much just kind of internal actions, right? Or if we've got that up-to-date recurring gift, so if they have a recurring gift that is up to date, we're removing any of those other tags that they were maybe past due and just adding a tag that they're up to date. So again, at that very, very quick look, we can see that a donor is up to date on their recurring gifts, making that one of the touch points or one of the talking points, that we can have with a donor when we're on the phone with them or when we're reaching out. And my last one is just an upcoming recurring gift. Again, all internal kind of actions where I've got that tag that's just saying they have an upcoming payment. And then a task to check in regarding those. So giving someone on the team that kind of human accountability to say, hey, let's be preemptive, let's be proactive and reach out to this donor saying, hey, I know you've got a payment on a recurring gift coming up. I wanted to just check in. How are you? How are you doing? Is there anything I can help with? Those kinds of touch points. And then just, I love a good text message. We all kind of laugh that, email open rates aren't as good, or, people getting mailers and tossing them out, but we all have our phone within like 5 inches of us at all times. So I love a good SMS message and using automation to do that and just say, hey, don't forget, we're so grateful that you have a gift that you've committed to giving us monthly, weekly, what have you. But we're very excited and love to touch base with you. If you need anything, let us know. Imagine getting that in a text 15, 20-ish days before your payment is due. I'd pay it just because it popped up on my phone. So just a very internal kind of focused workflow. But then, so Virtuous is doing all of the kind of number crunching, if you will, of, okay, who's past due, who's upcoming, who's current and up to date on those, but then being able to utilize that internally. But then I was also thinking about one of the things Amy said with a welcome back series. Now we have in our templates, and actually let me pop up and show you real quick, in our best practice workflow automation templates, we have a welcome series that's focused on a new donor. And I was thinking about this because we all know that getting that first-time donor to give a second time is one of the hardest things to do. But if you can get that, then you've got that donor really hooked and engaged with your organization. But Amy brought up the fact of a welcome back series. We've put a lot of work into get a donor. They've somehow become lapsed. Could have been, a very quick process, or it could have been that they've been engaged with us for years and just have finally kind of fallen off the radar a little bit. But what do we do when we welcome those folks back? It's a very different kind of message that we have for them, and a different type of way we communicate than just welcome for the first time. So I was thinking about that a little bit, and I kind of wanted to take it a slightly different direction, because I was thinking, what if we can really focus more on kind of a balance between retaining those folks before they need to be welcomed back? And if that is the case, how do we welcome them back? So I was thinking about a little bit of a kind of modified workflow, kind of a little bit of pieces from donor retention and kind of a little bit of pieces from a welcome series, more like a welcome back, or don't ever leave us, but if you do, welcome back kind of series. So I put together just a little something here. And this workflow automation is really focused on kind of utilizing a few of the pieces within Virtuous that just come standard. So one of the things we talk a lot about in workflows is utilizing tags to kind of group those donors. You can use those tags later in the series to kind of help move someone along. But we haven't really talked lately about pre-lapsed and lapsed tags. Now, these are two system tags that just come with Virtuous. And I wanted to really quick kind of walk through how we define those in Virtuous and what happens when you see them on a record. So a pre-lapsed tag is going to be a system tag in Virtuous where a contact record will be labeled as a pre-lapsed donor if they have no gifts within the last 6 months. And those are folks that are really that kind of focus for retaining, focus before they even fall out of the kind of pipeline, if you will, to keep them on board and engaged. And then we have the lapsed tag, which is going to be someone who has not given a gift, given a gift with $0 in the last 12 months, or if they have an active pledge or an active recurring gift with a missed payment. So you could have someone who's given kind of a standard gift, but is past due on a pledge payment or a recurring gift, but those folks will be marked as lapsed. Now we see these in a couple places in Virtuous on our kind of dashboard and our recommended calls, but using those in an automation to kind of walk someone through and make sure that if they become pre-lapsed, they don't move on to lapsed. Or if they do become lapsed, how do we get them back? So I set up 3 little steps here where I have a pre-lapsed donor. And you'll notice that I added a tag, a custom tag I made that was just called retention risk. Now we don't have an add tag of pre-lapsed donor because again, that's a system automated tag. We don't have to do that. They are just labeled that internally. But I added this tag of retention risk because I want to use that, whether someone is pre-lapsed or lapsed, just kind of as an all-encompassing, like I really want to keep them on my radar kind of concept. So I added this tag, and then I added a note saying that this donor has become pre-lapsed. And the reason I did that is I personally think tracking somebody if they kind of keep waffling between pre-lapsed and current or lapsed and current, I want to know that. That helps me to engage them better. It's more of kind of listening to the cues that they're not telling me. And so what I've done is I've added that tag of retention risk. And then automation will also add a contact note. And the reason I did this is because if you remember, a tag is always going to show you who has that tag right now. A contact note, if paired with a tag, can show you who used to have some kind of tag or interaction or met criteria. So I've paired them together to really work powerfully so I can always see who's pre-lapsed using the tag. But I can also report back on that contact note type that I made, a custom note type that says that they were part of that kind of pre-lapse retention risk kind of flow. So using those paired together allows me to look right now who has the tag and tracking backwards who used to, because I've said, if we add that tag, add this note in conjunction. So I just wanted to share that kind of interesting way of thinking where we're really kind of looking right now for what we need, but also setting us up in the future so we can kind of report back on some things. So I've, as usual, talked way too long and we're already at time, but really quick. Again, this kind of combo of retention and welcome back using pre-lapsed as some criteria to say, hey, don't go. We really want to re-engage. Or using lapsed if someone has truly become lapsed. What do we do to touch base with them? But then I made this recently re-engaged step that's essentially using some of these other kind of action items that I have in my workflow to say, folks that have recently had that lapsed donor kind of note added and gone through this series, what do we do? What kind of welcome back do we give them? So just a little bit, couple things to think about, if you will. But once again, I've talked too long and I want to really quick, I've got someone's Q&A in here. Ooh, and Tiffany asked a really great one about delays, working with tasks with due dates. So if you have a task, when you're assigning that task, so really quick in here, so I've given Mary Poppins this task for a pre-lapsed evaluation. This is essentially where you're saying, if I'm going to assign that to Mary Poppins today, give her a due date 5 days from now. So it's separate than delays, but you can use them in conjunction where even though Mary Poppins has 5 days to do this task, it's not stopping what's happening in the workflow beyond that. It's really just saying, because workflow is running all the time, every day, regardless of when Mary Poppins is assigned that task, Virtuous is going to set that due date 5 days later. So you could use that in conjunction with a delay if you don't want anything else to happen. But that due date is not a delay. It's truly just a due date for that task. So I hope that helps, Tiffany. We're over time per usual. So sorry about that. I want to just really quick invite everybody to join us next Thursday. We're spending an entire hour on receipting. Scott Richards, our Director of Training and Education, is coming in and we are doing a receipt-a-palooza. So join us, bring any questions that you have. We have way more time than we did today. So I hope to see you all there next Thursday. And thank you guys for joining me today. And a thank you to Megan, Aly, and Amy for giving us some little things to think about. All right, have a wonderful Thursday, everybody.